and for always being there for me with regards to your donations to the program. I appreciate you very much. Every time you head over to dougbillings.us and make a small donation on a monthly basis, you set up that recurring monthly donation over at dougbillings.us. I really do appreciate it. dougbillings.us. It's how I produce the show. It's how I get it out to you. It's how I make a living. 4 years ago when COVID hit, like many of you, we had to make changes and adjustments. I was fired from my corporate job because I stood up to people who wanted me to draft policies and so forth that would keep people away from hospitals during COVID. So here I am telling the truth, and we're in the middle of our fourth year. The sunshine is a lot brighter even on cloudy days now, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? With Trump in, J.D. Vance is the vice president, his cabinet taking shape. We got great patriots, Kash Patel. We have Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, Bobby Kennedy Jr. I mean, it is absolutely great. Still, Trump is having an effect, even though he hasn't taken office. And in Syria, the fall of that country today, I'm going to talk about it. What's going on? Because the liberals make a big deal about this in the legacy media and on social media. They talk about how this is just great. Well, the liberals are not at all happy with the fall of Bashir al-Assad, ladies and gentlemen. Their plans of making Syria into one of their puppet countries is falling apart. We're going to talk about that today. All of that and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, the right side with Doug Billings is now upon you. Are you ready?
Hey everybody, my name is General Mike Flynn, and I'm here to do a big shout out for my great friend and one of the best in the business, Mr. Doug Billings. Right side with Doug Billings, right side with Doug Billings. Doug is the future of the airwaves when it comes to independent broadcasters and podcasters. He is the new Rush Limbaugh. He's exactly what America needs right now, looking for honesty, looking for wisdom, looking for truth, looking for patriotism. Listen to Doug Billings at Right Side with Doug Billings. God bless you and God bless America, and thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are winning. We're winning, winning, winning. Welcome to the Right Side with Doug Billings. Are you ready?
We are not liberal snowflakes who melt away in the face of tragedy, adversity, and challenge. We are a covenant nation under God, and His divine providence is not dead and it's not gone. It is living within each and every one of you. And you will bring it to life in such a way that the world has never seen before. We never back down. We never give up. We march forward.
All right, here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. What a glorious time it is. We're almost a month after the election. I say it all the time. Sunshine is a lot brighter, even on cloudy days. Here in the smack dab middle of the fruited plain coming to you. A little bit cloudy here, windy, but the sunshine is still brighter. Now that we know President Trump is coming back, and I cannot wait to see what is going to happen these next 4 years. We already have seen a taste of it. We know that Trump is having an effect already throughout the world with regards to his reelection. And I want to talk a little bit today about the Syrian issue because you're not getting the truth out there. Now, this doesn't surprise any of you, of course, when you have to depend on the legacy media. Syria has fallen. There's a new leftist militant Islamic group called HTS. I'll get to that in a minute. But they've taken control of all of the major cities in Syria. And even though Russia and Iran have been supporting the 50-year reign of the Assad family, Bashir al-Assad has fallen. He's been driven out, apparently now spending time in Russia. And the radical left, the liberal legacy media, are not happy about this. This mistake in Syria, the United States involvement and the course upon which Syria has been set started about 7 years ago with Barack Hussein Obama, ladies and gentlemen, when he said that Bashir al-Assad has got to go. That was what Barack Obama wanted. So they begin these color revolutions and the CIA gets involved. And I'm taking you right back into time when he was asked, Obama, because he was saying out loud that Bashir al-Assad needed to be overthrown. Well, people asked him, how exactly do you plan on doing that, Mr. President Obama? How do you plan on that? Point out to me, they said to him, and I'll remind you, point out to us today, anyone listening and watching to the show either now or when you watch it later, point out to me the United States policy on removing a leader of a foreign country, please. We're interested to know where you get that idea, where you can actually do that. And if we take a minute to really examine all of the things that our government does, as I know many of you are beginning to do, you're waking up. But if we really looked at everything that they do without constitutional authority, it would be astonishing, to put it mildly. We know for a fact that the CIA was sent into Syria to overthrow al-Asaad, the entire al-Asaad family. The CIA worked with Saudi Arabia to make this happen. There was a series of covert operations that they all engaged upon to overthrow the Assad family, and it was all an abject failure. And what it did was the United States liberal policies, the United States liberal foreign policies brought in ISIS and Russia into the picture in Syria. That's how competent, right? Yeah, sure, competent the liberal foreign policies have been in this country for the past 100 years. They have not been anything other than a disaster. It's an example of the abject incompetence of every bit of liberal foreign policy that's been put forth from Washington or wherever from the United States over the last 50 years, 100 years. We haven't seen any liberal foreign policy victories in over 100 years. Liberal policy from America in Syria has been really to continually dig ourselves deeper and deeper into a situation from which we really need to exit. It's not only a time to send to not send more missiles to Syria. It's not a time to engage in yet another contest, another conflict with Russia. What we've seen in Syria is the CIA and the Pentagon try to keep Russia and Iran out of Syria, but they have failed. The talking points given to us from them and the media and so forth are, well, we've got to keep Syria out of the hands of Russia and Iran. It's in the best interest, they say, to the United States for us to be involved in Syria. What best interest? Let's define that. You notice that when elected officials say that, we're just supposed to take their word for it. It's in the United States' best interest that we remain in Syria. Would you please outline for us what best interests there are? Well, we represent stability. Really? You think you look at the Middle East in any place the United States has been involved outside of Israel and you think there's any stability whatsoever? Thank you, no, there is not. Or they'll tell us some other lie, some other communication that mixes lies with a bit of the truth to fool us, to get us to be quiet and go on our merry way. It's all nonsense. What we have in Syria is a product of our military-industrial complex and warmongers, neocons in our elected class who have created a proxy war. And that proxy war, I'd like to remind you also, has killed 500,000 people, and it's displaced over 10 million people. President Trump's gut instincts back in the day were to get out of Syria during his first term, and he had ordered General Milley to make that so. But General Milley and the Washington, D.C. establishment, including people like Lindsey Graham, came down hard on Trump and advised and, in fact, demanded against it. Trump gave an order at one point for Milley to get out of Syria, and Milley disobeyed the order. Milley is not our friend. He should be called back to active duty by Trump and stand trial for court-martial. The Pentagon was against us leaving Syria. The Washington Post wrote op-eds about all of it, about how they did not want us to pull out of Syria. Everybody and their brother in the Washington swamp was against President Trump's gut instinct to withdraw from Syria back during his first time. And regrettably, because COVID and other things came up, Trump relented on that issue. All right. But I'm advising Trump to get the heck out of Syria when he gets into office and don't look back. Stop every cent of financial aid being sent over there, and not just to Syria. You know my opinions on this. All foreign aid has got to come to an end. And between this conflict with Syria, with Russia, and the conflict with Ukraine, we've got to stop this pathway of incompetence that has been projected by liberal ideologies and policies. And for those of you who have been paying attention for quite a while, you'll remember that this kind of action was going on. They called this involvement in the United States and these color revolutions that we got ourselves involved to, these covert operations with the CIA and others. It brought about the Arab Spring back in 2011. It was nothing more than the CIA and the United States State Department who were sponsoring events to overthrow mostly Arab, but some other governments, and the Arab Spring rose up against all of that. And while we can't argue that this fall in Syria is a real setback for Russia and Iran, because it is, don't be quick to conclude that this regime change in Syria is going to be any kind of a benefit to the United States. Thanks, Roden. I see you there on X in the chat room. Thanks a lot for the encouragement. I appreciate that you like the information. I just wanted to let you know I see you there. Thanks, Roden. So Syria has a new leader, ladies and gentlemen, Abdu Mohammed al-Jolani. And he's the leader of this group called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. In other words, we call it HTS, okay? So Mr. al-Jolani has ties to ISIS and al-Qaeda. Oh, yeah, he's going to be a great benefit to the United States. Oh, yeah, we're real happy about that. So Mr. al-Jolani is now in the process of establishing a new Islamic State within Syria, very much like what we know and we see in Afghanistan with the Taliban. And yet you will see on X and you'll see on other social media platforms liberals hailing this as some sort of a victory. The fall of Assad, the fall of Syria. Oh, yeah, we did it. It's great. It's going to be. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the beginning of another night. We have got to withdraw from this, and Trump will. Trust me, I know that he will. We are going to have a new page. Talk about turning the page. We're going to turn the page away from ridiculous involvement in other people's problems and in other countries' problems. What we're seeing in Syria with the fall of Assad is not a pro-America democracy or a republic being born over there, but it's a very ancient form of government called a theocracy. And this doesn't get any airtime in any of the legacy media. You will probably be first hearing this from me. It's hard to understate the importance of this. Theocracies are, to the NeoCon class, to the liberals, and to the academics who think that they know more than us, it's the theocracy style of government is like the polio of governments. Oh, no, it can't be a theocracy because most of these experts, the neocons, the academics, and so forth, they all think that theocracies are extinct and don't exist anymore. They're not going to return. It's like the polio of governments. It's been eradicated. Well, look, folks, the opposite is true. In fact, there is a worldwide resurgence of theocracies around the planet. More specifically, there's something called constitutional theocracies that are springing up all over the place. In a constitutional theocracy, a certain religion is still at the heart of social law and order, but there are constitutional restraints on what members of the government, especially the executive branch, can do. So the constitutional theocracy, with its constitutional restraints, has limits about how far religion or religious belief can be imposed upon the population of a certain country. And if we look back over the last 50 years, constitutional theocracies have grown so much, and the liberals deny it. You name me the last time you heard anybody in the legacy news media talking about this. So 50 years, constitutional theocracies have grown so much that it's now estimated that over half of the world's populations live within a constitutional theocracy government. Countries like, you can go down the list, India, China, they're the two primary examples. And yes, China, I'll get to that in a minute. You have never heard that China is a theocracy. I thought they're just straight up authoritarian dictatorship with President Xi over there. How can they be a theocracy? Here's the truth. Again, you've never heard it anywhere else. China is having a revival of Confucianism. You heard me correctly. A rebirth of Confucianism. Confucius, if you're from Raytown, Missouri, very famous China philosopher and religious figure, okay? And it's being implemented by President Xi Jinping. Being implemented by him, the leader of China. Once you take a deep dive into that, it's easy to see and understand other countries and their theocracy, their constitutional theocracies. Turkey, Malaysia, Pakistan, Iraq, Yemen, Kuwait, Egypt, all of them are theocracies. Some would even suggest that Israel may be. And as I have told you over these last 4 years, since this show began, with Vladimir Putin in Russia, it's a theocracy. Vladimir Putin has made the Russian Orthodox Church the state religion over there. He has set up a kind of theocracy within Russia. He's even putting Bibles in schools. I'm not telling you that Putin's a saint, but I'm telling you that's what he's doing. Putin calls it the politics of the sacred. Politics of the sacred. Interesting. He views, as do many of these leaders in these theocracies, these constitutional theocracies, they all view liberalism as a plague. And this is why you'll see people in our country, the neocons and the radical liberal members of our elected class, begin to rise up and condemn what's going on over there. Not just in Syria, but in other places as well. It's interesting from many perspectives because, and especially from the perspective of history, I think, to see much of the world returning to their religious roots, blending their religions with governments. At the same time, they continue to pursue scientific advancement and technological advancement and so forth. They don't put all of that on the table. It's not like they're going back to the horse and buggy. Not at all. Quite the opposite. They have their religious beliefs codified within their constitution, pursuing scientific and social achievement as well. And they're in a constitutional theocracy. Now, I think that this is not what the liberals want. The liberals, sometimes in America, when I talk about the intent of the founding fathers and the divine providence of God, liberals' heads explode because we are a country that's founded on Christian principles. Oh, no, we're not, Billings. No, we're not. You're crazy. There's a separation of church and state. No, there's not. That, of course, is a myth. Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptist Association has been taken out of context more times than Carter has pills. An old saying that my grandmother used to use. I have no idea who Carter is, but that's what she used to say. It means a lot. That statement gets taken out of context a lot. We are meant to have a combined religion and government in this country. The founding fathers, every one of them, even the most liberal of them, wanted to have the Bible taught in public schools. They wanted philosophy, theology, science, the art, arithmetic, civics, as opposed to just pure history, music, etc. Latin. All it takes is a cursory look and research into the early American school curriculums for public schools, and you'll be able to see all of this. So the liberals can't have that. And so theocracies will never be something that liberals espouse or condone, because theocracies view liberalism as the enemy within, and they are. Theocracies will not have any of the LGBTQ kook movement within them. There will be no transgenderism in theocracies. In modern theocracies, women have rights. Now, you'll see news clips from the Taliban and radicalized Islamic states that don't give women rights, but that's the extreme. Most theocracies give women equal rights. Science is pursued along with religious moral principles as the foundation of the government and law and order. So, of course, the great paradox really in all of this is that the liberal movement and the NeoCon movement that thought that bringing Assad down and trying to intervene in all of these other countries to change governments and so forth, the radical liberal movement that got involved in all of that, in bringing Assad down in Syria and causing Syria to fall, has really brought about the largest wave of anti-liberalism, perhaps in the history of planet Earth. And that's what you're going to see as these theocracies begin to establish themselves throughout the world. They will border up and keep out liberalism. This is what Vladimir Putin has been doing and talking about for at least the last 4 years, but probably in earnest for the last 15 to 20. No NATO members on my country, on my border, he says. And if you do, I'm going to not allow it. And what does Administrator Biden and Vice Pretender Harris do? They poke Putin right in the eye, and they begin to name all of these NATO nations, Ukraine top among them, that are now bordering Russia. Well, we could have very easily told Zelensky that, hey, Zelensky, Big Z, buddy, hey, we, the United States, we can have your back, but you can't be in NATO because we're not going to cause an unnecessary conflict with Russia. And those negotiations could have happened very easily had Trump been in the White House. But he couldn't, and he wasn't. And I've told you before, liberalism is viewed by most people with any common sense and any shred of intellectual maturity as the enemy from within. Look at what it does to societies. And as I close, I just want to tell you this. Just look in the United States, the liberal agenda. Look at their talking points. Look what we're talking about in this last election cycle. I'm convinced that the radical liberal movement in America did not have the presidency as its number one goal with Harris and Walz. The number one goal of the radical liberal movement in America is to move the social and political needle as far to the left as possible. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, the two most radically left candidates that have ever been put forth in American history, is my point. Evidence of the obvious is sufficient. And the topics that we're talking about, are you kidding me? Transgenderism? Really? Little Sarah and Johnny, children under the age of 21, in order for them to be happy, have to mutilate their genitalia? This is what the radical left advocates. And I know it's gruesome, but the words need to be said. And you need to repeat them. On social media, you need to countermeasure everything they put out about this. It's immoral. And like him or hate him, Putin recognizes that as evil. And he's completely shut the door on it to Russia. And so have these other constitutional theocracies that I've mentioned: Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, Israel. They've shut the door on it because they realize, as they should, that the radical liberal agenda is anti-God, it's anti-morality, and in our case here in the United States, it's anti-American. And that's why they lost with such a resounding result this last time. And they're still not self-reflecting with any kind of effective outcome. They're doubling down, in fact, in many cases. Watch, because what's happening in Syria, you'll begin to see them act out, and we need to hold our own in the Republican MAGA movement accountable. Lindsey Graham, we're not going to go back into Syria. We're not going to have it. Trump's going to stand his ground this time. It's going to be a different story. He will not be persuaded by nonsense. He knows the game this time, and he will prevail in all of these and much more. I wrote, and I see your comment, it's illegal for anyone from a country that allows transition surgeries to adopt kids from Russia. See? Thank you. Part of my point. The transgender movement is one of the most gruesome movements I have ever seen in my life, and I'm looking forward really to the results of the Supreme Court decision in America about the hormone blockers and so forth that are given to these kids, who often, the majority of these people who get on these things and they go through these transition surgeries, come, they, a few years later, they snap out of it and they realize that, oh my God, I've made a life altering decision that cannot be reversed. And they become depressed, and suicide is rampant in that community. And it's not because what the radical left says, that the right side, the far right, is so cruel and mean that these kids are killing. It's because the radical left is doing it. And I am telling you, I believe that the chaos that the radical left puts forth is purposeful, and it's there for a reason. It is intended to destroy and break down America, the American identity, the American family, because nothing can stand in the way. If you're a liberal, nothing can stand in the way of the state. The state must be the one that the people depend on, not the family, not God, not each other, not community. Look, this is what we saw in North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida during this last wave of hurricanes. FEMA, the abject failure that it is perfectly designed by the liberals. That wasn't accidental. That's what they want. They want the breakdown of communities. They want the breakdown of the individual. They want you to depend on the government. I mean, we could go on and on about that, but watch this Syria story develop. The new leader, an Islamic leader who has ties with ISIS and al-Qaeda, is now in charge. He's going to start this theocracy, this Islamic theocracy. The radical left are going to start to very soon, and they're having meetings tonight and this week. Mark my words. They're having Skype calls, conference calls, and Zoom calls about their talking points. What are they going to say? What are we going to say? Oh my God, Russia is out. Iran is out. Everybody's out. Now Syria is left to their own to create their own country, and it's going to be a radical theocracy. This is what the liberals are going to say. Let Syria alone. We're going to withdraw. United States foreign involvement will be curtailed. Financial aid, I believe, to almost every country, with the exception of Israel, is going to stop within the first 100 days of President Trump's, if not sooner, administration. Just watch. Well, ladies and gentlemen, look, it's aside from all of that, great news in America, a lot to look forward to. I just wanted to alert you to this issue in Syria because it's an important one. Keep your eye on it. Let me know what you think about it. Watch this show and support me over at DougBillings.us, please. That's how I continue to make a living, and it's how I produce and deliver the show. Over at DougBillings.us, $5, $10, $20 a month. Just set up a monthly recurring donation over there. Prayerfully consider that. Just prayerfully consider it. I never charge you for this show. It's always free. And follow me over on X. Please share the show, share the information. And God bless you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in this thing together. I'm looking forward to these next 4 years with you. I'll be right here with you on the right side. Believe it. For the Republic. Cheers.